Part 1. The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council sat at the heart of Xylos Prime, a planet built more for politics than for life. Its walls curved like the inside of a seashell, glowing faintly with soft blue light that pulsed in time with the slow rhythm of the station's artificial heart. Hundreds of species filled the tiered galleries, tall insectoid diplomats with clicking mandibles, gelatinous beings floating in nutrient-filled pods, armored reptilian envoys with eyes like smoldering coals. All of them watched the center stage where a single human stood alone. His name was Daniel Cole. He was not a soldier, not a general, not even a politician by trade. He was a historian who had been pulled into diplomacy because Earth needed someone who understood not just what was said, but what was remembered. He wore a simple dark suit, no medals, no insignia, just a small silver pin shaped like a globe. His hands were clasped behind his back, his shoulders straight, his face calm. But his eyes held something the others could not name. It was not anger. It was resolve. For months, Earth had sat at the Council's table, listening to endless debates about trade routes, resource quotas, and civilized conduct. The Council called itself a union of peace. But peace, Daniel had learned, often meant silence for the weak and power for the strong. The Varelian hegemony controlled half the known shipping lanes. The Cathari Concord dictated which colonies could breathe and which would be stripped bare. And Earth, still new to the galactic stage, still seen as loud, emotional, and unpredictable, was expected to obey. But then came the incident on Proxima Moon Theta 9. It was a small settlement, just 300 people, mostly scientists and engineers, working on atmospheric processors to make the moon livable. They flew Earth's flag, used Earth's laws, and sent their children to schools that taught human history alongside astrophysics. The Cathari claimed the moon sat on a rare mineral vein. They gave no warning, no negotiation. Just warships in orbit and soldiers on the ground. By the time Earth's distress call reached the Council, the colony was gone, not destroyed, erased. Buildings melted into glass. Data cores wiped clean. Even the graves were dug up and scattered. Earth demanded justice. Not revenge, justice. They asked the Council to condemn the attack, to return the survivors, to recognize Theta 9 as sovereign human territory. The response was silence for 3 days. Then came the official statement. Regrettable misunderstandings occur in frontier zones. The Cathari Concord acted within established annexation protocols. Earth is urged to exercise patience and restraint. Patience, restraint. Words that sounded noble until you saw the photos of empty cribs and scorched playgrounds. Now, standing before the full assembly, Daniel Cole took a slow breath. The air tasted stale, recycled too many times through alien filters. He activated the translator node at his collar. His voice, quiet but clear, echoed through the chamber in over 200 languages at once. "We came here in good faith," he began. "We believed in your laws. We trusted your promises. We thought that if we played by your rules, we would be treated as equals." He paused, not for effect, just to let the weight settle. "But you do not see us as equals. You see us as children who must be guided or pests who must be managed. You speak of unity while allowing our homes to be burned. You preach order while ignoring the screams of our people." A murmur rippled through the galleries. Some species shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward, intrigued. The Varelian delegate, a tall figure wrapped in silver robes, crossed his arms and sneered. Daniel did not look at him. He looked at the Council's central dais, the ancient stone platform where verdicts were declared and treaties signed. It was carved with symbols of peace from 100 civilizations, none of them human. "Today," Daniel said, "Earth withdraws from all diplomatic engagement with the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will no longer attend your meetings. We will not sign your agreements. We will not beg for your protection or your permission to exist." Gasps rose like steam. A Cathari envoy stood abruptly, his 3 eyes wide. A drone from the insectoid delegation buzzed in alarm. "We are not declaring war," Daniel continued, his voice steady. "We are declaring independence, not from peace but from your hypocrisy. From your selective morality. From your silence when it matters most." He stepped back from the podium. The human delegation, just 5 people in a sea of thousands, rose as one and turned to leave. No one spoke. No one moved to stop them. The only sound was the soft hum of the chamber's climate system and the distant thrum of starships docking far above. As Daniel walked down the aisle, he felt hundreds of eyes on his back. Some filled with scorn, some with curiosity, a few with something like fear, and then it happened. The central dais, the great stone platform older than most species in the room, trembled. Not violently, just a single deep shudder, like a giant taking a breath it had held too long. The lights flickered. The hum in the walls stuttered. For 3 full seconds, the entire chamber froze. No one knew why. The engineers would later say it was a minor seismic shift in Xylos Prime's crust. The historians would call it coincidence. But those who were there that day would remember it differently. They would say the council itself had flinched, because Earth had done something no species had dared in 500 years. It had walked away, not in defeat, but in defiance. And in that moment, the galaxy realized something it had forgotten. Humans did not need approval to be dangerous. They only needed to be pushed too far. Outside the chamber, Daniel stepped into the transit corridor. His aide, a young woman named Lena Moore, handed him a data pad. On it was a message from Earth Command. All systems green. Phase 1 ready, he nodded. He didn't smile. He just tucked the pad into his coat and walked toward the shuttle bay, where a small, unmarked ship waited to take him home. Behind him, the Galactic Council remained silent. Not out of respect, but because for the first time in centuries they had no idea what to say. Part 2. News of Earth's withdrawal spread faster than any ship could fly. Within hours, every major news feed across the galaxy carried the same clip. Daniel Cole walking away from the council podium, the dais trembling behind him like a struck gong. On Earth, people gathered in streets and parks in quiet homes with windows open to the night sky. They did not cheer. They stood still. They listened, and then they went to work. President Elena Ruiz addressed the world from Geneva the next morning. She stood on a simple balcony, no grand stage, no holographic banners, just her, a light breeze, and the snow-capped Alps in the distance. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp with purpose. She told the people that Earth would no longer send its rare minerals to alien markets. No more helium-3 for Varelian warp cores. No more quantum-stabilized alloys for Ketheri warships. All exports stopped. All off-world contracts voided. From now on, Earth's resources would serve Earth alone. Then came the harder part. Defense. Across the planet, dormant systems hummed back to life. Deep beneath the oceans, old command centers lit up with green status lights. In hidden valleys and polar bases, engineers unlocked vaults that hadn't been opened since the last Great War. And in orbit, something far quieter began to move. Earth's orbital defense grid, a network of satellites, sensor arrays, and kinetic platforms had always been there. But it had been kept passive, non-threatening, peaceful by council standards. Now, under orders from General Owen Briggs, it shifted into active mode. Satellites repositioned themselves into layered shells around the planet, stealth coatings activated, power cores surged, and most importantly, all tracking data was routed through a new encryption protocol called Veil, designed by a quiet programmer named Priya Nair in a lab under Denver. No alien scanner, no matter how advanced, could see through it. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth's skies went dark. Back on Xylos Prime, the council scrambled. Emergency sessions ran through the night. The Cathari demanded immediate sanctions, blockades, trade embargoes, even military action. They are isolating themselves, snarled Counselor Vraxis, his voice crackling through his translator. That is the first step toward aggression. But High Arbiter Lorne of the Varelians disagreed. He sat wrapped in his silver robes, fingers steepled, eyes half closed. Humans bluff, he said. They have no fleet, no allies. They are making noise to hide their weakness. Yet not everyone believed that. In a dimly lit archive deep in the council's lower levels, a young human liaison named Marcus Bell sat alone with a stack of old data slates. He wasn't important, just a translator assigned to minor trade disputes, but he knew human history better than most aliens ever would. He had spent weeks pulling records, the border skirmishes of 2187, the Titan Uprising, the silent war of the Kuiper Belt. In every case, humanity had been outnumbered, outgunned, and underestimated, and in every case they had won, not by being stronger but by being unpredictable. He compiled his findings into a single report. He titled it, The Human Variable. It detailed how humans used psychology as a weapon, how they turned sacrifice into strategy, how they fought not just to survive, but to send a message. He sent it to the Security Council. It was read by one junior analyst, stamped low priority, and filed away. But fate has a way of circling back. 3 days after Earth cut off exports, a Varelian cargo freighter en route to the outer colonies lost power near Neptune's orbit. Its crew reported strange interference, ghost signals, distorted voices, flickering lights. Then silence. The ship was found drifting 2 days later. Engines cold, life support off, crew missing. The only thing left behind was a single audio file looping on the bridge console, a child's voice singing, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." Panic rippled through the shipping lanes. Cathari patrols doubled. Insurance rates skyrocketed. Rumors spread of ghost ships haunting the edges of human space. What no one knew was that Earth had already launched Project Echo. Hidden in abandoned shipyards beyond Pluto, old vessels, scrap hulls, retired freighters, even museum pieces, had been refitted with autonomous cores and neural AI trained on centuries of human culture, warfare, and deception. They carried no weapons, no soldiers, just sensors, transmitters, and one simple directive: make them think. Lieutenant Kara Finch commanded the operation from a buried lunar base called Haven 7. She was young, barely 30, with sharp eyes and a dry sense of humor. She didn't see herself as a warrior. She saw herself as a storyteller. Every drone ship she sent out told a story, one of loss, of warning, of quiet resistance. The lullaby on the Varelian freighter, that was her idea. If they won't listen to reason, she had told Owen Briggs, maybe they'll listen to a child. Back on Earth, life continued. Factories ran day and night, not building bombs, but solar arrays, water purifiers, food synthesizers. Schools taught children not just math and science, but resilience. Communities formed neighborhood watch groups, not for crime, but for coordination. Everyone knew the rules now. If the sky darkens, go to your shelter. If the comms go silent, trust your neighbor. If ships come, do not panic. Stand firm. The galaxy watched, confused. This was not the reaction they expected. No fiery speeches, no fleets gathering at the edge of the system. Just silence and preparation. On Xylos Prime, Marcus Bell's report was finally pulled from the archives after a second ghost incident, this time near Alpha Centauri, where a Cathari scout vanished after reporting shadows moving faster than light. A senior analyst, desperate for answers, opened the human variable. He read it twice. Then he requested an emergency briefing. Meanwhile, in Geneva, Elena Ruiz met with Daniel Cole in a quiet room with wooden floors and real plants. No guards, no recorders, just two people who had seen too much. They think we're weak because we're not shooting, she said, pouring tea. They think peace means fear, Daniel replied. We're going to teach them the difference. Outside, the sun set over Lake Geneva. Somewhere in the dark, a satellite turned its lens toward the stars, not to watch for enemies, but to guard what was theirs. And far beyond the moon, a ghost ship drifted silently past Saturn's rings, broadcasting a single line from an old Earth poem. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. No one in the galaxy understood it yet, but they would. Part 3. 6 weeks after Earth cut ties with the Galactic Council, the outer edges of the Sol system grew strange. Not dangerous, just wrong. Ships passing near the Oort cloud reported flickers on their scanners, shapes that appeared for a second, then vanished. No heat signatures, no drive trails, just echoes where nothing should be. At first, the Varelians dismissed it as sensor ghosts, cosmic dust playing tricks. But when 3 more vessels went silent in as many days, even the skeptics began to whisper. What they did not know was that Earth's ghost fleet had already spread its wings. Project Echo was never meant to fight. It was meant to haunt. Every drone ship, some no bigger than a shuttle, others disguised as derelict freighters, carried no weapons, only minds. Their AI cores, nicknamed Whisper Units, were trained on human art, war logs, folk tales, and psychological profiles of alien species. They learned how to mimic distress calls, how to loop old radio broadcasts, how to leave just enough evidence to spark fear but not enough to confirm a threat. Lieutenant Kara Finch watched it all from Haven 7, her command center buried under the moon's mare Tranquillitatis. Screens glowed around her, showing real-time feeds from dozens of drone vessels, She wore a simple gray uniform, her dark hair tied back, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. She did not command with shouts or orders. She guided like a composer, sending soft signals that shaped the fleet's movements into a silent symphony of uncertainty. One drone, Echo 7, drifted near the edge of human space. It played a loop of a 1940s jazz song, soft trumpet, slow drums on an open frequency. A Cathari patrol ship picked it up, circled for hours, then fled when the music suddenly cut to a recording of a mother reading a bedtime story to her child. The Cathari captain filed a report calling it psychological contamination. Another drone, Echo 12, mimicked the distress beacon of a lost Varelian scout. When a rescue ship arrived, it found nothing but an empty pod floating in vacuum. Inside, scratched into the metal wall, were the words, "Remember Theta 9. The Varelians sealed the pod and burned it in their ship's incinerator. But the image had already been shared, and the guilt had already taken root. Back on Earth, life moved with quiet purpose. Factories hummed. Farms expanded under domes. Children learned to code, to grow food, to fix broken things with their hands. There were no panic drills, no curfews, just a steady rhythm of preparation. People knew the stakes. They had seen the photos from Theta 9. They would not let it happen again. In Geneva, President Elena Ruiz met with General Owen Briggs and Daniel Cole in a sunlit room overlooking the lake. Maps of the solar system covered one wall, dotted with tiny lights marking ghost fleet positions. "They're starting to avoid our space," Briggs said, pointing to a cluster of red markers pulling back near Jupiter. "Trade routes are shifting. They're scared." "Good," Ruiz said. "But fear isn't enough. We need them to understand." "They think we're hiding," Daniel added. "We need them to realize we're waiting." Meanwhile, on Xylos Prime, the Council's unity was cracking. Smaller species, the insectoid Zin, the aquatic Morel, the nomadic Core, began asking uncomfortable questions. Why had the Council allowed Theta 9 to be erased? Why was Earth being punished for defending itself? Protests broke out on 3 member worlds. A Cathari trade minister was heckled during a public address. For the first time, the hegemony's authority felt fragile. Then came the derelict. A Cathari freighter, the Iron Maw, was found adrift near the asteroid belt. Its engines were cold. Its crew was gone. No signs of violence, no damage, just empty corridors and silent consoles. When salvage teams boarded, they found one thing playing on every screen: a video of Earth children planting trees in a schoolyard, laughing as dirt stuck to their hands. The audio was clear: birds chirping, wind rustling leaves, a teacher saying, "This is how we grow the future." The Cathari sealed the ship and quarantined the salvage team. But the video leaked. Within hours, it was playing in back alley data dens and private comms across the galaxy. Some called it propaganda. Others called it truth. Deep in the Council archives, Marcus Bell watched the video on a small screen. He didn't smile. He just whispered, "They're not fighting to win. They're fighting to be seen." High Arbiter Lorne finally called for a full military response. "We must strike Sol before they grow stronger," he declared in a closed session. "A show of force will end this nonsense." But the Varelian fleet commanders hesitated. Their scouts could not find Earth's real defenses. Every probe sent toward the inner system either vanished or returned with corrupted data, sometimes showing Earth as a paradise, sometimes as a fortress, sometimes as a graveyard. The inconsistency was maddening. How could you attack an enemy you could not understand? Kara Finch knew this. That was the point. From Haven 7, she sent a new order, Echo 9. A drone shaped like an old Earth cargo hauler drifted into neutral space near Mars. It broadcast a single message on all frequencies, repeating every 10 minutes. "You assumed we needed your approval to exist. You were wrong. We do not seek your war, but we will not beg for your peace." The voice was hers, calm, clear, human. The message spread like fire. Traitors repeated it. Hackers embedded it in public data streams. Even some council aides played it quietly in their private quarters, just to hear the tone of it. Not anger, not pride, just quiet certainty. On Earth, people heard it too. They didn't cheer. They nodded. They went back to work, because the Ghost Fleet was not Earth's shield. It was its voice. And for the first time, the galaxy was listening. Far beyond the orbit of Neptune, another drone powered up. It carried no message this time, just silence. And silence in the right place can be louder than any weapon. The council still did not understand, but they were beginning to feel it, the slow, cold weight of a species that would rather vanish than kneel, and that, more than any bomb or beam, was what made them afraid. Part 4. The message from the Ghost Fleet did not fade. It echoed, it repeated, it spread through trade lanes, data relays, and whispered conversations in docking bays across the galaxy. You assumed we needed your approval to exist. You were wrong. Those words, spoken in Kara Finch's calm voice, became a ghost of their own, haunting the minds of diplomats, soldiers, even ordinary citizens who had never thought much about Earth before. On Xylos Prime, the council chamber grew tense. What had once been a place of order now buzzed with unease. Delegates spoke in hushed tones. Security patrols doubled. The great dais at the center no longer felt like a symbol of unity. It felt like a target. High Arbiter Lorne demanded action. He stood before the assembly, robes flaring, voice sharp with frustration. This is not diplomacy. This is sabotage. We must respond with force before Earth's madness infects the rest of the fringe worlds. But others were no longer so sure. Counselor Melis, a slender being from the aquatic world of Vera, raised a webbed hand. Force against what? He asked. We cannot find their fleet. We cannot breach their defenses. We do not even know if they have weapons. All they have done is speak and vanish. His words landed like stones in still water. Murmurs followed. The Zin delegate, a tall insectoid with iridescent wings, clicked softly in agreement. Perhaps silence is their weapon, it said. And we are bleeding from wounds we cannot see. The truth was spreading, even among the powerful. Earth was not fighting like other species. It was not amassing ships or firing missiles. It was using time, space, and memory as tools. Every ghost ship, every lullaby, every image of children, planting trees, it all added up to one idea. Humanity would not be erased without being remembered. Back on Earth, life continued with quiet strength. Cities ran on clean energy, farms fed millions, schools taught not just science but history, especially the parts about standing alone. People did not live in fear. They lived in readiness. Neighborhoods shared supplies. Engineers fixed broken systems with spare parts. Artists painted murals of Earth's oceans and forests on the sides of old buildings. It was not a war effort. It was a promise, to themselves, and to the future. In Geneva, Elena Ruiz met with Daniel Cole and Owen Briggs in a small room with wooden chairs and real sunlight. No screens, no maps. Just three people who carried the weight of a planet. They're starting to turn on each other, Daniel said, sipping black coffee. The Cathari are blaming the Varelians for pushing too hard. The smaller species are demanding a vote on Theta 9. Ruiz nodded. Good, let them argue. While they fight over who was wrong, we stay whole. Briggs leaned forward. Kara's fleet is holding strong, but we can't keep this up forever. Sooner or later, they'll send a real armada. Then we'll be ready, Ruiz said simply. Not with more guns, with more truth. Meanwhile, deep in the lunar base Haven 7, Kara Finch monitored the Ghost Fleet with steady focus. She had not slept much in weeks, but her eyes were clear. On her main screen, a new alert blinked. A Varelian warship, the Sword of Dawn, had entered the outer asteroid belt. It was alone, scouting, not attacking. She watched its path, then tapped a command. Echo 14, a drone shaped like a mining tug, powered up its transmitters. Instead of a song or a poem, it sent something new, raw footage from Earth's past. Black and white images of cities in ruins after old wars, then color footage of those same cities rebuilt. Children playing where bombs once fell, farmers planting in fields once soaked with blood. The message was clear. We have been broken before. We know how to heal. And we will not let you break us again. The Sword of Dawn stopped, hovered, then turned and left without firing a shot. News of the encounter reached Xylos Prime within hours. Lorne was furious. They are mocking us with their history, he spat, but others saw it differently. Marcus Bell, still working quietly in the archives, compiled the footage into a full dossier. He titled it Why Humans Do Not Surrender. This time someone read it. A senior Cathari analyst, shaken by the images, shared it with his commander. The commander, in turn, showed it to Counselor Vraxis. For the first time, Vraxis did not sneer. He watched a clip of a human grandmother teaching her granddaughter to bake bread in a kitchen lit by candlelight. After a blackout, after a storm, after loss. He said nothing, but he did not delete the file. The cracks in the council widened. The Morel delegation announced it would no longer support Cathari trade sanctions. The core nomads closed their ports to Varelian warships. Even some Varelian merchants began questioning the cost of this standoff. Helium-3 prices soared. Ship repairs stalled. The galactic economy, so used to Earth's steady supply of rare materials, began to creak. Then came the broadcast. Not from a drone, not from a hidden relay. From Earth itself. It aired on every open channel, unencrypted, unblocked. Just a single camera in a sunlit field. A young girl no older than 8 stood holding a sapling. Behind her, rows of people, men, women, elders, children, were planting trees in neat lines. The girl looked into the lens and said, "This is for Theta 9, and for everyone who thinks we don't matter." The feed cut to black. No music, no logo, just silence. Across the galaxy, beings who had never seen Earth wept. Not because they feared humanity, but because they finally understood it. In the Psi Council chamber, no one spoke for a full minute after the broadcast ended. Even Lorne sat still. His usual fire dimmed. Malus closed his eyes and whispered something in his native tongue. Later he would say it meant, "They are not animals. They are gardeners." Earth had not fired a single shot. It had not threatened a single world. It had simply shown what it valued, and in doing so, made the galaxy question what it had lost. The balance of power had not shifted with weapons. It had shifted with meaning. And for the first time, the Council realized that peace was not something you enforced. It was something you earned by being worthy of it. Part 5. 6 months after Earth walked away from the Galactic Council, a single shuttle drifted toward the Sol system. It carried no weapons, no escort, no markings, just a plain silver hull and a quiet hum of engines running on minimal power. Inside sat Counselor Malus, once a skeptic of human emotional chaos, now the only delegate the Council could agree to send. He had volunteered, not out of duty but out of need. He needed to see for himself. Earth did not fire on the shuttle. It did not jam its signals or demand surrender. Instead, a calm voice came through the comms. "Identify yourself and state your purpose." Malus gave his name and said only, "I come to speak." The reply was simple. "You will land in Geneva. Follow the beacon. No surveillance beyond human-approved channels. No armed escorts. Earth's laws apply from the moment you enter our atmosphere." Malus agreed. He had expected threats. He got rules, and somehow that felt more powerful. As the shuttle descended through clouds, he saw Earth for the first time, not through data screens or war reports, but with his own eyes. Green fields stretched under a blue sky. Rivers cut through forests. Cities rose not with towers of steel and glass, but with trees growing between buildings, solar panels on rooftops, people walking in parks. It was not a fortress. It was a home. He landed on a quiet tarmac outside Geneva. No soldiers, no crowds. Just 3 people waiting. President Elena Ruiz in a simple coat, Daniel Cole with his hands in his pockets, and Lieutenant Kara Finch in a gray uniform, her eyes sharp but not unkind. They did not salute. They did not bow. They just nodded. "Welcome to Earth," Ruiz said. Malus stepped onto the soil. He expected tension. He felt peace, and that confused him more than any weapon ever could. They walked to a small building near the lake. No grand hall, no council-style chamber. Just a room with wooden tables, real plants, and sunlight through clean windows. Water was served in glass cups. No scanners, no recorders, just conversation. "I did not come to negotiate terms," Malus began. "I came to understand." "Why did you leave?" "Why not fight?" Ruiz looked out the window. Because fighting would have made us like you. We wanted to be something else, Cole added. You thought silence meant weakness. We showed you it could mean strength. Kara said nothing at first. Then she spoke softly. We didn't want to win a war. We wanted to end the need for one. Malus listened. He asked questions. About Theta 9, about the Ghost Fleet, about the children planting trees. They answered honestly, without pride, without anger. They spoke of loss, yes, but also of hope. Of memory as a shield, of dignity as a right, not a gift. Later they walked through the city. Not as a show, just as people do. Malus saw schools where children learned both math and empathy. He saw factories powered by sun and wind. He saw old men playing chess in the park while drones, real, peaceful drones, delivered medicine to nearby homes. At one point, a little girl ran up to Kara, handed her a flower and said, "For Theta 9. Kara knelt, took it and smiled. Thank you, Malus watched. And for the first time he saw humanity not as a species to be managed, but as neighbors. That night he stayed in a small guest house with no guards, no locks, just a bed, a window, and the sound of crickets. He could have left. He could have called for a rescue. But he did not want to. He slept deeply, the first real rest he'd had in months. The next morning he met with Ruiz again. The council is broken, he admitted. Not by your weapons, but by your silence. You made us look at ourselves, and we did not like what we saw. Ruiz nodded. We never wanted to rule you. We just wanted to be left alone. To live, to remember our dead. To raise our children without fear. Malus took a breath. Then let us try again. Not as rulers and subjects, but as equals. On your terms. Ruiz did not say yes right away. She said, send no warships. Send no spies. Send teachers, doctors, artists. Let them walk our streets like you did. Let them see what we are. Then we will talk, Malus agreed. He knew it would take time. But for the first time, time felt like a bridge, not a weapon. When he left Earth 3 days later, he carried no treaty, no signed document. Just a small wooden box given to him by a schoolchild. Inside was a seed from one of the trees planted for Theta 9. Grow it where you live, the note said, so you never forget. Back on Xylos Prime, the council waited in silence. When Malus entered the chamber, all eyes turned to him. He did not give a grand speech. He placed the seed on the central dais, the same dais that had shuddered months before, and said only, they are not what we thought. No one argued. No one shouted. For the first time in centuries, the council chose to listen. Earth did not rejoin the council that day. It did not need to. It had already changed it. From then on, ships from other worlds began arriving at Earth's borders, not with demands but with questions. Some came to learn about clean energy, others about food systems. A few just wanted to hear a human lullaby or watch children play. Earth welcomed them all, but on its own terms. No compromises on sovereignty, no blind trust. Just honest exchange. Kara Finch returned to Haven 7, but the Ghost Fleet grew quiet. The drones still drifted, but now they carried messages of cooperation, not warning. Owen Briggs retired, saying, my job was to guard the door. Now it's time to open it. Daniel Cole went back to teaching history, reminding students that courage is not always loud. And Elena Ruiz stood on that same Geneva balcony one evening, watching the sunset, knowing that peace was not the absence of conflict, but the presence of respect. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Not as a threat, not as a child, but as a people who chose to stand tall without tearing others down. And in the quiet of space near the orbit of Mars, a single drone played a new message on a soft loop. We are here. We are human, and we are at peace. No one shuddered this time. They just listened.